Millions of people from all around the world love fried chicken. In Japan, families have turned ordering American-style fried chicken into a Christmas tradition, embracing it as part of their festive celebrations. In China, where chickens were once revered for their ability to herald daybreak, KFC has emerged as the country's leading fast food chain. And in the United States, African Americans often call fried chicken the gospel bird, reflecting its deep ties to Sunday church culture. Perhaps the world loves fried chicken because there are so many different ways to marinate, season, coat, and fry it. The classic southern U.S. version is coated in flour or batter and fried crispy. Guatemala and fried chicken is marinated in citrus and spices. Japanese tatsuda age features soy sauce and potato starch. The possibilities are truly endless. However, despite the fact that many cultures around the world make distinct varieties of fried chicken, the U.S. South's version is unquestionably the most well-known and the most controversial. But why? Many people in the southern U.S. even assert that fried chicken is their birthright or their state religion, as Damon Lee Fowler described in his 1998 book, Fried Chicken: The World's Best Recipes from Memphis to Milan, from Buffalo to Bangkok. The truth is, the story of fried chicken in the United States is far from straightforward. But loved as it may be, its history is marked by decades of hardship. Join us today on a journey through time as we expose the dark origins and cultural exploitation of fried chicken. Here we'll reveal how a beloved Southern dish was transformed into a symbol of prejudice, exploring its journey from humble beginnings to controversial media portrayal. This is the racist history of fried chicken. From the 17th to the 19th century, conventional wisdom held that the American South was the birthplace of fried chicken. Southerners proudly made it a central element of their regional cuisine and claimed that only African Americans, primarily enslaved, could prepare authentic fried chicken. The first widely recognized printed recipe for fried chicken in the U.S. was published in 1824 in the Virginia Housewife, the inaugural regional American cookbook, authored by Mary Randolph, a white woman from a slaveholding family and a distant relative of Thomas Jefferson. This cookbook marked an important moment in American culinary history. In the book, she wrote the process as follows: cut them up as for the fricassee, dredge them well with flour, sprinkle them with salt, put them into a good quantity of boiling lard, and fry them a light brown. Of course, the dish's history starts much earlier, but this recipe set the fried chicken standard for generations of Southern cooks. Though this recipe was renowned, it was actually the Scottish immigrants who settled in America during the 17th century who introduced the concept of frying chicken to the continent. However, their culinary style leaned towards simplicity and focused primarily on the cooking method rather than thorough reasoning. So, what gave Southern U.S. fried chicken its flavor? Food historian Adrian Miller notes that by the 18th century, fried chicken had become a staple among white families in the South. However, the dish reached its transformative potential when West African culinary techniques were introduced to Southern kitchens. But West Africans didn't make fried chicken the same way many Southerners traditionally did. It was more like a fricassee, where chicken was lightly fried and then braised for a much longer time in a seasoned sauce, similar to Senegalese chicken yassa. That said, the forced migration of Africans to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade inadvertently led to the fusion of two distinct culinary worlds. Enslaved African Americans made fried chicken using recipes provided by their Scottish slaveholders. Over time, however, African American cooks adopted the dish as their own, infusing it with their unique culinary practices. With their expertise in reasoning and frying, they transformed fried chicken from its Scottish origins into a dish that became as emblematic of Southern cuisine as black-eyed peas, cornbread, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, and sweet potato pie. The harmonious marriage of West African spice profiles and Scottish frying techniques resonated in the creation of a culinary masterpiece, a rich infusion of dramatic spices like paprika, cayenne pepper, and garlic, when combined with the intense heat and sizz of the frying process, produced a symphony of flavors and textures. This perfect balance of elements elevated fried chicken from a simple dish to a beloved American classic. Although fried chicken already became a common and well-integrated dish in Southern cuisine even before the U.S. Civil War, it held deeper significance for the African American slaves. For them, preparing and eating fried chicken was more than just a way to nourish themselves. It represented an act of personal independence and subtle defiance against their oppressive circumstances. Despite the severe restrictions on slaves, many slaveholders allowed enslaved people to raise chickens and sell or barter eggs. In West Africa, chickens held divine significance and were integral to various religious rituals. The enslaved Africans carried these spiritual practices with them to the Americas. In the southern U.S., African Americans turned to fried chicken as their preferred dish for communal meals after church or when the pastor visited a congregant's home for dinner. As the esteemed guest, the pastor was served first and given the choicest parts of the chicken, typically the breast, which were referred to as preacher's parts until the 1950s. Given the deep religious significance attached to fried chicken, it's no wonder that its nicknames like Gospel Bird and Sunday Cluck continued to resonate in African American culture. In the 19th century, fried chicken emerged as a path to economic empowerment for many African Americans. Dr. Seki Williams Forson, in her groundbreaking book, Building Houses Out of Chicken Legs, Black Women, Food and Power, reveals how the town of Gordonsville, Virginia, with its population of 900, earned the title of the fried chicken capital of the world during the latter half of the 1800s. Gordonsville. There was a key stop on 2 railroad lines during the Civil War, but at that time, the trains lacked dining cars. According to Dr. Seki Williams Forson, when weary train passengers arrived in Gordonsville, these black women quickly provided a variety of foods, including fried chicken. Since fried chicken traveled well before the advent of refrigeration, white passengers often purchased it from African American cooks through open train windows. Entrepreneur vendors flourished in the South and beyond, with fried chicken playing a crucial role in helping many African Americans relocate and build their own homes, reflecting the theme of Williams Forson's book. In the 20th century, fried chicken became increasingly visible, yet its portrayal was deeply flawed. Newspapers and magazines in the southern states began to showcase advertisements aimed at white audiences, presenting fried chicken as a hallmark of Southern hospitality. Conversely, these same media outlets perpetuated deeply offensive stereotypes by depicting African Americans as fried chicken-eating caricatures. Fried chicken was promoted as a Southern or black specialty, frequently employing derogatory language and imagery. Ads from companies like Church's Chicken portrayed the dish as ethnic food, and other fried chicken restaurant advertisements featured cartoonish depictions of African Americans as caricatures obsessed with watermelon and fried chicken, perpetuating racial cliches under the pretense of innocent advertising. This coon card from 1905 says it all. Unfortunately, these portrayals were not confined to print, but also appeared in film and video. Films like The Birth of a Nation reinforced racist stereotypes by linking black people with the dish, tarnishing its image for generations. This 1915 seminal and supremely racist silent movie by Dita W. Griff is about the supposedly heroic founding of the Ku Klux Klan. Lamentably, it was a huge sensation when it debuted. In one scene of the 3-hour film, a group of actors depicts black elected officials as lazy and unruly, behaving crudely in a legislative hall. The intended message to the audience is clear. This is what happens when black individuals are allowed to vote. Some of the legislators are depicted drinking, others with their feet propped up on their desks, and one is notably eating fried chicken in a very exaggerated manner. Another example of an utterly offensive film is The Jazz Singer from 1927, one of the first feature-length talkies which featured Al Jolson in blackface and perpetuated harmful stereotypes. The film often depicted African Americans in a demeaning manner with exaggerated imagery of them holding watermelons and fried chicken, trivializing a rich and diverse culinary heritage into a single derogatory narrative. An examination of film posters from the 1920s through the 1950s also reveals a disturbing pattern in which fried chicken was used to marginalize African Americans. As we approach the mid-20th century, the commercialization of these stereotypes becomes increasingly prominent. Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben were more than just brands. They were caricatures that exploited the very stereotypes we're examining. Aunt Jemima was created in the late 19th century and became well known for its pancake mix and syrup. It featured a caricature of a mammy figure, a stereotype of African American women as contented servants. The image was based on the minstrel show character and was perpetuated in advertisements that depicted Aunt Jemima in a way that suggested she was happily serving a white family, often in plantation-like setting. Around this era was also when the mammy stereotype first appeared. The mammy was portrayed as a loyal, overweight black woman devoted to her white family, often depicted in the kitchen, preparing fried chicken. This stereotype reinforced the idea of black women as subservient and maternal, while obscuring the realities of their experiences with racism and inequality. Meanwhile, Uncle Ben's brand, introduced in the 1940s, used an image of an elderly African-American man in a suit, which played into the stereotype of the happy servant. The brand's marketing emphasized that Uncle Ben was a figure of hospitality and good service, again reducing complex cultural identities to simplistic and stereotypical representations. Market research shows that by the 1950s, Auntie Jemima had become one of the most recognizable brands in the U.S., indicating that this stereotype that was not only widely circulated, but also highly profitable. Now, let's fast forward to 1964, a watershed moment for America. Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, marking the end of segregation. Ironically, that very year saw the rise of fast food chains like Kentucky Fried Chicken, or KFC, presenting a culinary paradox. While the Civil Rights Act sought to dismantle the barriers that had long divided the nation, KFC seemed to reinforce them in a more subtle manner. Colonel Harland Sanders, the founder of KFC, quickly became a household name with his secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. Yet what many overlook is that, intentionally or not, KFC's business strategy perpetuated the fried chicken stereotype. Hype, the company predominantly targeted low-income, predominantly black neighborhoods for its franchises. This choice not only capitalized on, but also further entrenched the racial and socioeconomic associations with fried chicken, subtly reinforcing the very divides the Civil Rights Act aimed to eliminate. A study from the late 1960s revealed that fast food chains, such as KFC, were disproportionately located in marginalized communities, sparking accusations of food redlining. This term referenced the practice of strategically placing these restaurants in certain demographic areas, akin to how redlining was used to restrict access to housing. Despite the dismantling of legal barriers to integration, the placement fast food outlets became an unanticipated arena for racial tension and division. As African Americans began to patronize restaurants that were previously off-limits to them, the stereotypes associated with foods like fried chicken were reignited. The dish evolved into an ironic symbol embodying both cultural pride and persistent prejudice. Think about the sit-ins that took place at lunch counters throughout the South. Although these acts of civil disrobe aimed to dismantle segregation, the choice of food ordered carried a significant political message. By ordering fried chicken in establishments that had once been exclusively white, individuals made a statement of reclamation and defiance against the entrenched stereotypes. Civil rights leader Malcolm X spoke on how food was often weaponized to keep communities marginalized. In his speeches, he pointed out how even after the Civil Rights Act, the stereotypes associated with foods like fried chicken continued to perpetuate inequality and division. As we move into the present day, the global presence of fried chicken is unmistakable. From Seoul to Sydney, Nairobi to New York, the dish has won the hearts and appetites of people everywhere. International chains like KFC have established a presence in 145 countries and territories. However, even as it enjoys worldwide popularity, fried chicken still carries the weight of its historical baggage. Fusion dishes like Korean fried chicken and Japanese kairaj showcase the global adaptations of this beloved dish. However, while the chicken has flown the coop, it hasn't entirely escaped its historical cage. The stereotypes that once defined it have merely been obscured, now lingering beneath the veneer of globalization and culinary innovation. Let's turn the spotlight onto some modern culinary trailblazers. Chefs like Marcus Samuelsson and food critics like Soleil Ho are actively working to confront and dismantle the stereotypes associated with this cherished dish. Samuelsson, through his restaurant Red Rooster in Harlem, pays tribute to traditional flavors while skillfully navigating away from racial cliches. Meanwhile, Ho uses her writing and critiques to provoke meaningful discussions about food and identity. This new wave of chefs and critics isn't merely serving up tasty fried chicken. They're crafting a new narrative that acknowledges the dish's intricate history without being constrained by it. Truly, the story of fried chicken is a profound story of cultural fusion, survival, and resilience. It illustrates the merging of two distinct culinary traditions, the resourcefulness and defiance of a community in the face of oppression, and the ongoing struggle against stereotypes and misrepresentations. Understanding this history is crucial. It helps us appreciate the rich culture behind every bite while confronting the lingering issues that need to be addressed. By recognizing the full story of fried chicken, we can work towards a more inclusive and respectful appreciation of the diverse culinary traditions that build up our world. If you found this exploration insightful, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts and let us know how you feel about fried chicken and all its history. Your support helps us continue bringing these interesting conversations to light. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep appreciating the rich stories behind the things we love. Thanks for watching.